Hello everyone, I'm Sneha Katole and today in this video we are going to talk about database management system, introduction to DBMS and the basic concepts of DBMS. We'll be talking about what is database, what is data, what is database management system, what are the advantages of DBMS, database systems versus file systems, what are the applications of DBMS and real world use cases of DBMS. Um, let's get started. Database. So, what is database? Database is a collection of related data. And what is data? Data is the collection of facts and figures which can be recorded over time. And they are not just random facts, but they have an implicit meaning to them. That's basically data. And the collection of those related data is forms a database. So basically, for example, let's take the email addresses of people, or it could be the telephone numbers, or it could be the names of the people in a particular city. It could be as small as information about the like the biodata of the family to as huge as the whole data of the whole population of our world. So there could be variety in the size of a database. This data can be recorded in an indexed address book, the address data, I mean, or it could have been stored in the on your personal computers. So these kind of data are the collect is the data which is like collected and recorded, and they have an implicit meaning and they are stored for future retrieval. So this is basically a database. Now, what is database management system? Um, so to understand a database management system, let's take an example of a library. In a library, there are multiple books, and then there are shelves, and then there is a librarian. So the books, the various multiple books that you see in a library is the data. The shelves in the shelves of the um library, shelves in the library constitutes the database, which are storing the data, that is the related books. A particular shelf you find related books. And then there is a librarian who keeps track of these books and the bookshelves, that is the data and the database. So it is like librarian is the one who is maintaining, modifying, constructing, defining, and manipulating the books and the shelves. That is what a database management system does. So basically, database management system defines, constructs, and manipulates the database. Now, what does defining a database mean? It includes defining the type of the data, the structure of the data, and constraints for the data. So in case of a particular data, for example, phone numbers, it needs to be a 10-digit number with a country code. So that's a specific format of the data. So defining the type of data for phone number is a 10-digit numeric with a country code. So that's the specific format we need to follow. Constraints include, for example, in case of defining age of a person, it could not be negative. It cannot be negative. So that's a constraint we put on is that the number cannot be negative. And basically the data type, like in case of the names of the people, it needs to be a string. In case of age, it needs to be integer and so on. So defining a database means defining the data types, structures, and constraints for the database. For constructing the database means actually inserting the values in the or data inside the database. So when you're putting your details or of details of a specific person inside the database. It is that you're constructing the database. And then manipulating database. Manipulating is modifying the database, which may include addition of the entries and in addition of the data, removal of specific entries, or it could be updating certain entries or deleting them or adding them. Exactly. So this is overall what a database management system does. It helps us to give a software system which will help in defining, constructing, and manipulating the databases. DBMS allows users to perform specific tasks, which includes data definition, updation, retrieval, and user administration. So data definition, that is, we can define the constraints, data types, and structures, specifying all of these for creating a database. We can give the particular rules for defining a database. Updation. Whenever we are inserting values into the database, that is constructing a database, what we do is add, like insert the actual data, modify it, retrieve it, modify it and delete it. So updating the data we can perform using the DBMS, that is the software system. Data retrieval is also an important feature or important task which can be performed using DBMS. So retrieval of the data. So what are we doing using DBMS is basically storing the huge amounts of data. It doesn't have to be huge exactly, but storing the data. Storage is an important property of property for which DBMS is designed, so that we can retrieve it whenever we need it. So retrieving the data from the database is an important feature. User administration. So one of the major reason why file systems could not be used uh, in our real-time applications, everyday applications, is because of the user administration. For data privacy, data security, and data integrity, we need to grant access to the database to some sensitive information to only the authorized users. And this is done by database management system. So it helps in monitoring the performance and recovering the information if in case unexpected failures occur. So now, why database systems and what are the limitations of file systems overcome by database systems? So in case of file systems, certain disadvantages are there, limitations are there, which include data redundancy and inconsistency. In case of, yeah, so in case of file systems, certain disadvantages are there, which includes data redundancy and inconsistency, difficulty in accessing, automaticity problems, security problems. So data redundancy and inconsistency. In case of file systems, there might be some cases in which the particular data is repeated, and in some cases, multiple, like for example, in case of a person inserting a data about his salary, if it's an employee data. If in case of file systems, we're inserting the salaries of the employees, data redundancy could happen, that multiple entries in multiple at multiple times, but for a particular employee the salary would have been added there, and it might lead to inconsistencies in some cases if uh, as the as the years passes by, a particular employee get a raise, so his salary is updated. It needs to be updated in the database as well. So in case of it needs to be updated in case of file systems. If we're inserting the new entry for the particular person, but we are not deleting the older entry, then it might lead to inconsistencies in the database. Or another example could be if an employee decides to quit a particular company, but his salary in the file systems is not updated, then this might lead to inconsistency. Access Accessing the data using the file system is difficult as compared to the database systems. Automaticity problems in case of transactions, in case of banking transactions, if two people are uh, performing a transaction, if one person is crediting some amount to the other person, it needs to happen simultaneously at a point at a particular time. Doesn't there shouldn't be a delay in those kinds of situations in our day-to-day lives in case of banking transactions. So if a person is crediting some amount of money to the other person, then it needs to be debited from his account and it needs to be credited to the receiver at a time. So this data updation needs to be happened uh, simultaneously. So this is another problem with the file system. Security problems again, granting the access to the users of the data. In case of file systems, that's a problem. So why do we need DBMS, database management systems? Ease of access, again, the limitations of file system. That's why we need database management system for ease of accessing data. In case of traditional file systems, redundancy issues, security issues, accessibility issues, these issues are overcome. Data access becomes easier. The data is indexed, so looking up the data or retrieval of the data is also efficient and easy. Storage and management of data also becomes easier because in case of database systems, the data is stored in the form of objects, which is not possible in case of file systems. So, and in practical world, data is in the form of objects and not in the form of files. So, storage and management of data for ease of accessing data, then easy and efficient file management. So, indexing occurs in case of database management systems. So, based on the attributes of the data, and hence retrieval of the information, storage of the by from the storage from the database is easier. And avoiding duplicates and redundancy, again, data normalization is used. Concurrent data accessing, so multiple users can access the same data at the same time without data inconsistencies. So for this, we have some particular properties of DBMS which allows us to do this concurrent data accessing. What are these ACID properties? ACID, A for atomicity, C for consistency, I for isolation, and D for durability. So these are the four important properties, ACID properties of DBMS. So atomicity is basically if a transaction is occurring, then it occurs at the same time simultaneously, or if it fails because of some reasons, then it doesn't occur at all. So consistency. Consistency means before and after the transaction takes place, there needs to be data needs to be consistent. If a person is crediting some amount to some other person, then the person crediting that amount from the balance of that uh, account of that person needs to be reduced as the money is debited from his account, and the person who is receiving the particular amount of money, sum of money, the it should reflect in his bank account and his balance should rise. Isolation. So if there are multiple transactions occurring, in case of let's take an example, A is transferring money to B and B is transferring money to C. Then A and C are not interfering with each other. So the isolation property, which helps in maintaining the data security and privacy. Durability. Durability means even if the system failure occurs, then changes are reflected in case of successful transactions. And if the transaction is not successful, then it doesn't occur at all. These are the properties of DBMS. Advantages of DBMS. So It helps in controlling the database redundancy. Multiple entries of the data does not occur, and data sharing. So multiple users can access the same data simultaneously, only if they're authorized users who have the access to the database. Also, it also prevents data inconsistency, easily maintainable, and reduction time in case of data retrieval, right? And maintenance is also easier. So backup is essential in case of system failure. So this is an important property because if the system failure occurs in case of software or hardware failures occurs, there needs to be a way we can retrieve the data without for in case of preventing any data loss. So backup is essential. Multiple user interface like command graphical user interface, application program interface, so different types of user interface which makes it user friendly. Now the last point about database systems for this video is database system applications. So database systems applications, we are using database systems in our everyday day-to-day lives, uh, and it helps in easier storage of information and retrieval. Most common sectors for database system applications include banking, in case of storing customer account information, transactions, loans, loans and records of the records, bank records. In case of airlines, for scheduling the information and reservations. So in case of airlines, it is used for um, storing the information of the customers. In case of universities, for students, for faculties, for course registrations, for the results of the students' courses they are taking, everything. Telecommunications, in case of records of the calls, SMS, monthly bills, then about the communication networks. In finance, for storing information about holdings, sales, purchases of financial instruments like stocks, bonds. Case of sales for customer, product, and purchase information. Manufacturing for management of supply chain and for tracking production of items in factories, inventory of items in warehouses, stores, and order for items. Human resources about employees' salaries, payroll taxes, benefits, and for generation of paychecks. So also in case of e-commerce platforms like Amazon, which is a very good example, as it handles product inventories for giving the customer details and payment history. This is a very good example in our day-to-day lives. Everybody is using Amazon. In healthcare for patient records, treatment histories, medical bills, etc. So it plays a very critical and crucial role in our everyday lives. So to wrap up, database management system, it's a powerful tool which simplifies the way we handle and manage data. It helps in reducing the redundancy, improves the accuracy and security, maintains data integrity, and indispensable part of modern technology. So that's about the database management system introduction, and this is all about database management system. Thank you for watching, and please drop any questions if you have any in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to help you as best as I can. Thank you so much for watching.